Hello and welcome to Everything Fear, your one-stop shop for all things horror. I'm Kit Tinsley. I'm a horror author, film academic and general horror geek. Last year I did a video on the 10 greatest witch horror movies, and that is my most successful video on YouTube. So today I'm doing a kind of semi-sequel to that video, because what we're looking at today is the 10 scariest witches in non-horror movies. Number 10. Aurra, Dark Crystal. Though never referred to as a witch, instead she's described as a keeper of secrets and an astronomer. Her powers of divination and precognition, along with her appearance and gruff manner, certainly make her seem witch-like. Though she's technically a good character on the side of our heroes, her true purpose is never really revealed, and she always seems to be shrouded in some sort of secrecy. Her withered leathery skin, her curling horns and third eye give her a very sinister appearance. Great designs from British fantasy artist Brian Froud. Though perhaps not the scariest witch on this list, considering this is a kids movie made by the man behind the Muppets, she's pretty sinister and disturbing for young children. Number 9. Queen Bavmorda, Willow. A story by George Lucas, directed by Ron Howard. Willow is very much a classical fantasy story of brave knights, sorcerers, strange creatures, fairies, and of course, witches. The main villain of the movie is Queen Bavmorda, an evil witch who is going across the land seizing power. Her authority is brought into question by the birth of a child who is destined to become a true and fair ruler. Bavmorda sends out her legions to retrieve the child, who she intends to sacrifice to gain her power. Portrayed with fairy tale glee by legendary British actress Jean Marsh, and with a look that is very reminiscent of the evil queen from Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Bavmorda is terrifying, especially when you consider that her main goal throughout the movie is to steal and murder a baby. Number 8. Jardis, the White Witch, The Chronicles of Narnia. Here I'm talking about the movie version from 2005, played by Tilda Swinton. Jardis is a witch who declares herself ruler of the magical kingdom of Narnia. The books state that though she pretends to be human, she is no daughter of Eve. Instead, she is a descendant of Lilith, Adam's first wife. Lilith is considered a demonic entity in most of the Abrahamic religions. Swinton's otherworldliness really lends itself to the character, and mixed with the amazing costume design, they make her look both strangely beautiful and utterly terrifying. BBC film critic Stella Papa-Michael summed it up perfectly when she wrote, "As the cold-hearted White Witch, Tilda Swinton sets the tempo for this bracing adventure. She is a pristine picture of evil, like the spectre of Nazism that forces children out of London to the sanctuary of a country manor." Number 7. Maleficent, from Maleficent. Though the character first appeared in Disney's 1959 animated movie Sleeping Beauty, I am going to be talking mainly about the live-action version portrayed by Angelina Jolie in the 2014 movie Maleficent. This movie serves to offer some backstory and justification for the character's evil actions in the original animated movie, as well as offering her some redemption. Though not technically a witch, instead she is a dark fairy, but given her appearance and her powers, she certainly fits into the witch mould. With her horns, her strange eyes, and those really pronounced cheekbones, she creates the same sort of mix of otherworldly beauty and scariness that Jardis did in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. Although this movie does make you feel for her, and in the end she gets redemption. Number 6. The Witch / Jennifer, Big Fish. Okay, this is an odd one. As a youngster, the character of Edward Bloom has an encounter with an old, one-eyed, hag-like witch, played by Helena Bonham Carter, who gives him a prophecy about his life. Her appearance and the spooky, decaying old house she lives in certainly give her a really scary vibe. The movie is a fantasy drama in which a dying man's son sets out to prove that his father's lifetime of tall tales are nothing more than lies. However, what he discovers is that his father lived a fascinating and extraordinary life, And though he may have embellished his stories for entertainment purposes, all of the stories were in some way true. The witch turns out to be a young girl that Edward met when he was young and promised to return to. However, by the time he returned, he'd already married, and the girl was living a hermit-like life in a decaying old house. Edward helps her fix up the house and the whole town. It's a really beautiful film. But for that scene where Bonham Carter is in the full witch garb, she is really quite spooky. Number 5, the evil queen, Snow White. Perhaps the most famous witch in fairy tales and cinema, the evil queen from Snow White is a truly terrifying figure. A woman so narcissistic that she is prepared to murder her own stepdaughter just for being younger and prettier than her. First, she tells a woodsman to take the girl out into the woods and butcher her, a really nasty thing to do in the first place. However, when she discovers that the plan has failed and that the woodsman has let her down, she uses magic to disguise herself and goes and poisons Snow White. This theme of the murder of innocents is particularly common in witch stories, and in particular those that fall into the fairy tale category. Number 4, Bellatrix Lestrange, the Harry Potter franchise. Another witch entry for Helena Bonham Carter, this time playing the demented follower of Lord Voldemort, Bellatrix Lestrange. There is something about the setup of the Harry Potter universe where Voldemort and his followers are so obsessed with their pure bloodline and it not being mixed with muggle, non-magical blood, that is very reminiscent of the Third Reich and Hitler's obsession with the Aryan ideal and not mixing the bloodstream, which is a really sinister allegory within a children's fantasy story. And this is one of the things that makes Bellatrix so scary. Not only, like the rest of the Death Eaters, is she the ghost of Nazism, I suppose, but she's just like this wild, crazy, ferocious creature. And Helena Bonham Carter really plays on that and puts this animalistic element into the character that makes her really, really frightening. Number 3, Missernst, the Grand Witch, The Witches, 1990. The Witches is essentially a children's movie based on a book by beloved children's author Roald Dahl. Of course, Dahl was famous for often bringing darkness and scariness into his work, and he certainly didn't shy away from the grotesque. The film was directed by Nicholas Roeg, a filmmaker better known for his art films like Performance or The Man Who Fell to Earth. However, Roeg had ventured into the world of horror previously, making the absolutely brilliant Don't Look Now, which remains one of the most heartbreaking and adult horror movies ever made. So we have an author not afraid to scare children, a director with an art house sensibility and a history in horror. Then as producer we have the man behind the Muppets and Sesame Street, Jim Henson. There are a lot of witches in this movie, obviously, but perhaps the scariest is Missernst, the Grand Witch, portrayed brilliantly by Angelica Houston. In her normal appearance, she is frightening due to her aloofness and her air of superiority, and a great performance from Houston. However, when she reveals her true appearance, she becomes utterly terrifying. Based on the illustrations by Quentin Blake from the original book, but made even more revolting by Jim Henson's Creature Workshop, she becomes something so grotesque she would not be out of place in an actual horror movie. Number 2, Meg Mucklebones, Legend. The 80s saw a resurgence of fantasy movies, and these tended to be either child-friendly fairy tales like Labyrinth or The Dark Crystal or Willow, or adult action movies like Beastmaster, Conan the Barbarian, and so on. Legend, released in 1985 and directed by Ridley Scott, is in a category all of its own. On the face of it, it fits more into the child-friendly fairy tale style of fantasy, with its tale of unicorns and a kidnapped maiden and the hero who must rescue her, with a band of imps and fairies. However, the story, the darkness, and the horrific special effects really make this seem more like it's aimed at adults. The creatures in this movie are all designed in a terrifying way. Who can forget the image of Tim Curry as the giant, red, massive horned Lord Darkness from this movie? However, as a child, the one character in this who really scared me was Meg Mucklebones, the Swamp Witch. The design of Meg is horrifying. It's like they took the stereotype of a witch to its nightmare extreme. Her green skin, her straggly hair, her milky eyes, hooked nose, all drenched in swamp water, make her utterly horrible to look at. Played by Robert Picardo with a kind of cackling, hysterical relish. Her desire to devour Tom Cruise really is the stuff of nightmares. If you enjoy this video, if you could please subscribe, give us a like, and maybe tickle that bell icon to be notified when we upload future content, that would be great. Thank you. Number 1. The Wicked Witch of the West, The Wizard of Oz. When it came to compiling a list of the scariest witches in non-horror movies, there could only ever be one number 1. The Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz. Released in 1939, this movie is the classic tale of a Kansas girl's adventures in a magical kingdom. The main antagonist of this movie is the Wicked Witch of the West, played brilliantly and terrifyingly by Margaret Hamilton. It's hard now to see what makes the character so brilliant and so scary, because she looks just like a stereotypical witch, the kind you see everywhere at Halloween. The thing is though, that stereotype came from this movie. From the green skin to the hooked nose and the pointy hat and the cackling laugh. All of that we so associate with witches came from this movie and Margaret Hamilton's performance. Like Boris Karloff's Frankenstein has become the pop cultural reference point for Frankenstein's monster, despite how many other versions there have been. When you say Frankenstein, the image every single person gets in their head is Boris Karloff's. Well, the same thing is true of Margaret Hamilton's Wicked Witch of the West. She has become the cultural touchstone for witches. And with her terrifying army of flying monkeys and her melting death scene, the Wicked Witch of the West commands the screen in every scene she's in and is really scary even now. Well, thank you very much for joining me. What was your favourite non-horror scary witch? Let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, stay scared and stay tuned.